start.
All right, good morning, everyone. Almost good afternoon. Thank you again for coming to our lunchtime learning. If you are a parent of a CES student, will you please raise your hand? Cumming Elementary, woo! If you are a parent of an Otwell Middle School student, raise your hand. Awesome, yay! Thank you all for making the trek over here. We are excited to share with you some really cool resources that are in our community and some things that you can do at home with your children that kind of go along with our Common Core reading. It's not going to be just the basic, what did you read about, who are the characters. We have some specific questions and specific styles of you helping out your children that are going to be really good to know and start doing. I'm Katie Gunter, the Parent Involvement Coordinator here at Cumming Elementary. And here's Allie Cregan
from Otwell Middle School, the Parent Involvement Coordinator over there.
So we're going to go ahead and get started. If you want to send your kids over in the other side of the Media Center, we have wonderful 5th grade students who are excited to see them. And let us know if you have any questions.
Oh, don't forget we have a raffle. We have a cookbook to raffle off tonight. Today. So please make sure you write your name on the ticket over there by the pizza, and we'll at the end call a lucky winner.
Yes, so don't run out quite yet when everything's over. All right, thank you very much. And this is Miss Julie Boyd. She is with the Cumming Library. She's going to talk to you about some of the resources they have there.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Julie Boyd, and I work with Youth Services for the Forsyth County Public Library, and I work at the Cumming Library, which is right across the street. And I just wanted to share with you today some of the great services that we have at the library for your children. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the programs. And if you didn't get one of these, I have more of these. We print these out every month, and this talks about the different story times that we have, book clubs that we have, programs for teens and adults as well, so all ages. We have a family PJ story time every Thursday night at 6:30, and that's for all ages. And it's a really great story time. So any questions that you would have about any of the programs, feel free to ask me about. As I'm speaking, if you have any questions about anything, feel free to interrupt. And then I also want to talk about our e-library resources, or our electronic resources that are available through our website. Who has a library card? I did bring applications and library cards with me today. If you would like to apply for a library card today, I can get you one after the program. If you, in order to access these resources, you do need a library card. You can access them from home if you have a computer at home, or you can access them from the library. And everything is free. All you have to do is be a resident of the county, and it's all free. And you would just go to our website, which is on your library card. If you look at the brochure, you'll see that we have a lot of different resources, and I don't have time to go through all of them, so I'm just going to highlight a few of them that I think would be especially helpful for your children. So you start out from our homepage, and you'll see the buttons over here. And the easiest way to access the e-resources is through right here. You can also access some of them through here and in here, but it's probably, I mean, there's multiple ways, but this, I'm going to go through this here. And you'll see we've categorized and grouped together our resources for elementary school. There's high school, middle school, and preschool. And we're going to start out with the elementary school. And each of these is a link to a different resource for elementary age school children. And obviously I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm just going to point out some of them. We have several from Encyclopedia Britannica. So we also have, the encyclopedia print books in the library, but a lot of that information is available online. So, for example, Britannica Elementary looks like this. And there's lots of great information. The kids can just type in what they're searching for. All this is reputable information that will be sourced and cited and that they can use for reports. So it's not like just surfing the internet and you don't know what's out there. This is all reputable information. Okay, I also wanted to talk about the book flips. For those of you with younger children that are learning to read, Book Flicks is excellent for helping kids that are learning to read. And if you click on that, you'll see that the books are divided up into different categories so they can read about their interests, about what they're interested in. So we're going to click on Animals in Nature. And you'll see we have 46 pages of different pairs of books. All the books are in pairs of a fiction story and a nonfiction. So fiction is the story, and then nonfiction is so that they can learn facts about what they're interested in. And so lots of kids like dinosaurs. So like here's a group right here. This one, if you notice, it shows also that it's available in Spanish. And this will load the story. Is there sound connected
There
to
should be
this?
sounds that are plugged in.
And the fiction story, the program will read the book to the child.
There it is.
And you can make it full screen. So as you can see, as someone is reading the story, wait for it. See how it highlights the different words that it's reading. So the child can see which word is being highlighted, and that helps them to recognize the words, helps with their reading. So, and this goes through the whole story. wanted to hear it in Spanish, and it'll load back up again. But it'll load the same book, but it'll have all the words in Spanish and speak to the child in Spanish as well. And not all the titles are available in Spanish, but a lot of them are. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Okay. After they listen to the story, they can then click on the nonfiction book. This is not this does not read along with it. Oh, I'm sorry. There is a read along, but it's not it's not like a cartoon story like the other one is. It just reads the words as they go along.
We know a lot about dinosaurs.
See how it highlights the words as it goes along.
They couldn't fly. They didn't live underwater. The oldest ones lived 220 million years ago. The newest ones died out 65 million years ago.
And then there's also, well, that page isn't working. But there's games that go along with the stories, and also there's other links to other websites. So if they are really interested in dinosaurs, then they can check out those other sites and learn more about them. And so anyway, this is a great resource. Does anyone have any questions about BookFlix? Okay. We also have Tumblebook, Cloud, and regular Tumblebook. That's for children that are a little bit older. It's very similar to BookFlix, where it does the read-along, where it highlights the words as it goes through, but it has chapter books. And these are all stories that you would find in print, and they're just put up, saved, and scanned on the computer. So let me show you. So here's the Tumblebook Cloud Junior. And you can see the different categories of books there. And there is a read-along section.
Chapter 1. I hate doing speeches. I hate doing
And see how it highlights the whole sentence. And this is for older children. These are chapter books.
because my name is Alice. Everyone thinks I should be smart or something. Maybe they're confusing me with Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. Maybe they think that my yellow hair is so...
Right, I also wanted to show you we have a lot of nonfiction books that are available. It is called the Rourke Nonfiction eBooks, and that's from grades K through 8. These are all, again, these are real books that would be available in print. So if they're doing a report and their teacher says, well, you have to use a real book, these are real books. They're just scanned and put in a database so that you can read them on the computer. So let's say a child's doing a report on frogs. Thinking. There we go. So and then you get for example, here's a book that tells you the grade level, and you can open the book. And then it just, like I said, it's just a scanned copy of the book. All these books that I've shown you so far, you do not have to check them out. These are available all the time. So we do have separate e-books, like of bestsellers, and those you do have to check out. But all these databases that I've shown you, they're available all the time, 24/7, and you don't have to check them out, and they're just available through our website. So is there any questions on any of the books, the book programs? Okay. All right, so that was the elementary school, and I also wanted to show the middle school one. As you can see, there is a lot of resources available for middle school students. There's science, geography, American history, a lot of the Encyclopedia Britannica, the Discover series. There's kid-friendly search engines. So if you click on, let's try. Okay, this is a search engine like Google, but it's going to filter everything that your child would get back. So if they type in something, you don't have to worry about them getting back a site that you would prefer them not to see. These are all screened. It's put together by a group of librarians, and this is great to open up this search engine for kids that are researching something. All right, I also wanted to show you our novelist program, which is available through the Reader's Corner. And this database is really good for all ages. For if a child knows a book that they really love to read and they want to read something similar, or it's really good if they're reading something and the parent wants to know more about the book. They want to read the reviews. you can go to this database. It's called Novelist. So let's say your child loves Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So there's the book. It tells you the age recommendation, tells you if it's part of a series, and this is the first one in the series, gives you a description about the book, the grade level. And then down here are the reviews. So you can read what like Book List or School Library Journal says about the book. And then also over here are read-alikes. So let's say they've read the entire series of Diary of a Wimpy Kid and they want to read something else like it. Then you can see other titles over here. And when you click on a book, it's connected to our catalog, so you can immediately place a hold on that book. And that is a service that we do, that we will hold books for you. So all you have to do is just run into the library. The books will be on the hold shelf. You just grab them and check them out. And we hold books for a week. How much more time do you have?
We're about ready to move on. If you
Okay.
can give a few more tips. There's so much that you can learn about the library.
There is
Oh my gosh.
so much. You could just spend hours and hours, and all of this is free, so I really would encourage you to go through it. If you come into the library, ask someone, if you see me or another staff member, ask us to show you how to access everything if you're not sure. And we'll sit down with you and spend time going through it so that you can learn how to use the different databases. Everything is all, we call them e-resources, electronic. A lot of this is online, but they are all reputable sources, so you can feel good about your child reading these different databases and getting information from them as well. We do also have, I just want to say really quick, we are constantly updating our print materials. The library just received extra money to buy some more nonfiction reference materials, items that will always be in the library. So if your child needs to do a report, we will always have things that are in the library that they can use in print if they prefer to use the print. So does anyone have any questions about anything? Okay. Thank you so much for listening.
Now I would like to introduce you to Miss Jennifer Williams. She is our quality work facilitator and the resident literacy coach. And so she wants to tell you a little bit about Common Core and close reading, which is something that students have been taught to do and have been doing in their classrooms. So when you signed in, there were a few things to pick up. One of them was the hot pink paper. This is just a PowerPoint presentation. You can have that as a reference. You don't have to have it, but something that you definitely will want to take home today are these lighter pink papers. We have them in English and Spanish. So if you didn't get these, just raise your hand, and as Ms. Williams starts talking, I can go around and hook you up.
Good afternoon. It's good to see everyone here today. Thank you for coming to Lunchtime Learning. I recognize lots of you from different meetings and coming to different events at the school. And we have had sessions before about reading. And oftentimes we've given you just some example questions maybe that you can ask your students when they read about comprehension. But today I want to talk about something called close reading, which is what your students are doing in class and kind of what that means for you at home. So give you a little bit of a different perspective on helping your students as they're reading and comprehending or understanding what they're reading. Okay, so you might say, well, Ms. Williams, I hear you talking about close reading. What does close reading mean? Well, it doesn't mean that we're going to, read really closely the books or the papers. it means that we're really going to examine what is in the text. We're going to really be looking at, what the text says and making meaning from what is there. Okay? A lot of times, when we talk to students about books, we might ask questions that they can answer without even really having to look at the text. Like, if you're reading a story about a boy who goes on a sleepover, we might say, well, have you been to a sleepover before? Talk about that. And while that's good, and we want to do those things, close reading is going to focus more about what's in the text, the words that are there, and the meaning that you can make, rather than just what I already know or could share about myself. Okay? Okay, so the goal of close reading is that we want our students to be independent readers. We want them to be able to read a story by themselves and really understand very deeply what's happening in the text and make meaning of it. Okay? Again, it talks about thinking about the text itself, because a lot of times we ask students to go back into the story that they're reading and find evidence that supports their answers. Maybe you've heard about your kids doing that in class. They can't just say, I think he was mad. No, they have to say, cite your evidence, right? Go back and find an example of how that's true. So that's what we're asking students to do, so we wanted to talk a little bit about that with you today. Okay, so when we're talking to students about comprehension, really, there's different types of questions that we ask. Okay, and we have within the text questions. Those are right there. It's kind of retelling the story kind of questions. Beyond the text questions and about the text questions. We shared this structure with you because your students, all of our students in the building, have a reading level. You probably were shared, that reading level was shared with you maybe in your fall conferences or in any kind of meetings you've had with teachers, or maybe things they send home, or they have level readers that are their reading level. When your teachers assess students to find out what their reading level is, they listen to how they read the words, but then they ask them comprehension questions. And they ask them questions that are in these sections, within the text, beyond the text, and about the text. So that's why we wanted to talk about what those types of questions are today, so maybe you have a better understanding too of how your students have their reading level or what is expected of them when they read a story. Okay, so within the text questions are questions like, what was the boy's name in the story? Tell me what happened in the story. And they might say, first this happened, next this happened, then this happened. Or it might be, if they're reading a nonfiction book, what do you know about whales? You know, how do they live? What do they eat? Those questions that are right there within the text. They can find those answers. Okay? It's a simpler question. And I feel like a lot of times we've given you some, we've done different games where we've given you cards where you can use and ask who questions and what questions and where questions about the story. And those are within the text kind of questions. So those questions are good. We definitely need students to be able to tell us about what they've read, to be able to summarize it or just retell the story. That's very important. That's really the first type of comprehension we have, but we don't want to stop there. We want to know that they really can think even more critically about the text. So we have beyond the text questions. And so that's where they're telling about how someone feels. Maybe they're answering a question, why? That might be a question about how the character changes through the story. So it's a little bit more complex. They have to really think about, what their answer is going to be and why it's that way. Okay? We might compare two stories. Okay, you read this story. How is that like the story Little Red Riding Hood? That might be a beyond the text question. Or we're trying to find out, what does that mean? What did the author mean by that? Why did the character do that? What do we learn about Egypt by reading this book? Then we have about the text kind of questions. And to me, these are some of the hardest kinds of questions because they're very abstract. They're talking about really the actual structure of the text or how the author wrote something. So we might be trying to figure out what is the author's perspective? Why would the author write it that way? Or the words they use. So a lot of times when we're asking children about a book, we might say, how did the author show you that the character was afraid to go to school? And they have to think about the pictures or the words or even find phrases in the story. And sometimes that's a little bit harder to do or to think about. And then determine the structure of the text. So it might be how the story's written. If it's a nonfiction book, maybe they ask them about the headings that are in the story, and then there's paragraphs that go with the headings. And they might say, a question they might ask would be, why do you think it was a good idea to use these headings, for the author to use these headings, and why? So those kind of questions, they're asking about actually like the structure of the text. Those are about the text questions. So why do we ask these kind of questions? Why would we have these three types of questions? So within the text, beyond the text, and about the text. Well, one, we think it makes students better readers because they're really understanding what they've read. But also, it does tie in with our Common Core standards. You know, those are newer to us, but we have two types of reading standards, reading literary, okay, and reading informational standards. And they align very closely with these types of questions. So standards 1, 2, and 3, those are identifying the text key ideas or details. Those are within the text. What does it say? Those three standards relate to the within the text questions. The next standards 4, 5, and 6 are about the structure. Our students are learning about how an author creates a poem, or how an author writes a nonfiction book using a table of contents, for example, or what do these maps or keys mean in the reading? And then beyond the text really aligns with standards 7, 8, and 9, where they're integrating knowledge and meaning. They're comparing things to other texts, or even sometimes comparing what they've read to other media things like pictures or movies or things like that. So those really go with the beyond the text questions. So what does that mean? What does close reading mean for you? Maybe if you want your children to do some close reading at home, especially if they have a homework assignment where they have to read a passage and answer some questions, those usually involve close readings because they really are having to look at something and really think about it. So it's important to know that close reading means you're going to read the text more than once. You guys know when you get a book and you're reading for fun, you just read it and you're enjoying it, right? But then sometimes you have to read something, maybe it's a contract, or it's a bill, or it's a letter from the doctor. It's something that you really do have to really think about. You're going to read it more than once. You're going to reread and make sure you understand it. So know that when your children are doing close reading, you're going to need to read it more than one time. Sometimes they're looking for different things. So maybe they read it the first time and they're looking for that within the text, those within the text questions. So they want to just retell the story to you. Or then maybe they read it again and they're trying to make a connection between two things, beyond the text. Or maybe they read it again and you say, why was that a good title for the book? So it's good to have multiple readings when we're doing a close read of a text. They're not going to get it all that first time they've read it. Okay? Also, it's good to know that the questions you're asking are very important during each time. Okay? And then I said that they should be text dependent. And what that means is you should have had to have read the text to be able to answer the question. So you remember that question that I said, if this person in the story spent the night and that you said, tell me about a time you spent the night with a friend. Would you have had to read that book to answer that question? No. So that wouldn't be a text-dependent question. So text-dependent means I have to have read the story to be able to answer the question. So what I wanted to share with you was that not every text needs to be a close read. So don't go home and every book your child brings you, or you read a story at night before you go to bed, doesn't mean you have to ask all these deep questions and read it multiple times. Books should be fun, and we want to build our kids' love of reading. So please hear me say that as we're talking about close reading. So read some text for fun, but also when you're working with your students on a school book or some homework, know that these are the kind of questions their teachers are asking them, and that might help you when you're reading at home. Okay? So I gave you some comprehension conversation starters. So one side is fiction, and the other side is nonfiction. And you see they're broken up into within, beyond, and about the text. So these are some kind of questions that would help you to distinguish those different types of comprehension questions. I feel like I gave you a lot of different information. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yes.
In the class, teacher tells students which books they have to read. Is they guide or they guide to students? They have to read like some books names or something like that.
The teacher, do they assign different books for the students to read? Is that what you're asking? Yes. A lot of times, your students, they have a reading level. They share that at the beginning of the year. They will group students in the class kind of by their reading level, and they will read particular books with that group. So yes, a lot of times they'll have a book that they read, and they're asking these questions. Then students, obviously can come to the media center and check out books that they choose, or their classroom will have a library. They can check out books that they choose. So it's important that they can do both those things. So they usually have that option too. That's a good question.
Like lower, like second grade, first grade, they just start reading that book.
Yes.
So there's some website or something they can use. They can finish that books and do tests and something on the books.
Oh, we do not have, that sounds very much like AR, the program. We do not have the accelerated reader program here at our school. We haven't had that for a couple of years. There is a website, is it Adventures in Reading? I don't know if I'll say the right thing.
It's adventure something, yes.
There is a website where that's free that students can log on and try to take different tests on those, but we don't do that here at school. We do have programs like RAS Kids that I know first grade uses, where they read stories and answer questions particular to those stories on the website. They do it at school. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
¿Cómo podemos entrar a esa página de Raskins?
How does she get into Raskins?
Your child's teacher would have to give you access to that. So if you're in first grade, that would be something I know you have. Not all grades have it, based on what it is, what the program is. But I know first grade uses it. So you have to ask your student's teacher about it. All right, thank you all so much. I hope you will put these questions to use with your students. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay?
All right, don't go anywhere. Got some exciting things to tell you. Maybe Ms. Cregan, you can come over also. Now, at the sign-in, you should have picked up also a purple sheet, and I do have some over by Mr. Hector that I'll be able to pass out. But let me explain this to you. This is going to be your feedback form, and I am challenging you to think a little bit harder than you normally would after one of these. Your students do something similar to this oftentimes. It's called an acrostic. And so you'll see on one side it says reading, and the other side we have the Spanish translation, lectura. All right? So what you are going to do is you're going to think about this workshop, Miss Boyd's presentation and Miss Williams' presentation, and I want you to try to complete each line with the letter that starts that line. So with any kind of feedback you have, something that you learned, something that you might want to continue learning, you try to do as many as you can. Here, we're lucky right here with the I. You could write, I learned that we start asking a little bit more in-depth questions. All right? The G could say, good job. Over here at the T, you could even say thank you. L, loved it. I would like to learn more about this. So we're thinking a little bit more focused on our answers. So we'll see how you do that. That's our feedback, and we'll pass these out to you if you did not get one, and some pens also. When you are finished with this, towards the back, if you turn around, it says check out these new books. For everyone who's here, we have some giveaways for you. We do a program that is online. It's called Head Sprout. It's an intervention program that helps earlier readers with their fluency and older readers with their comprehension. So some of your students may be in it. We got a lot of extra books. Our students are reading those books online now. So we have all of these books to give away to you. All right? This big old box has 80-something, no, I think it is 80 books in it. Geared more towards the younger grades, kindergarten, first, second, even third graders. It starts out super, super easy. The first one, whoops, it's called C. And it has 2 words on each page. CV. C sand. These are the characters. CV van. So very, very basic. It builds those, so they get to be a little bit more difficult, more challenging. The bigger ones are definitely longer, have more of the vocabulary, a little bit smaller font. So, yeah, they can color them in. So, on your way out, you may choose one of these for your child who's in like kindergarten, first, second grade, and then even third graders would benefit from these. If you have a child in 4th, 5th, these are the reading comprehension. So these are going to be good to kind of go along with Miss Williams' presentation. They're more in the form of chapter books. They have some questions at the end about each of the chapters, and you can even ask the questions, the comprehension questions that Miss Williams provided you on here. So these can be good for the older students. So grab a pack on your way out. Miss Cregan, do you have some?
I have this workbook. It's called Word Roots. This is for 4th grade and up. This workbook is helping for spelling and vocabulary. It has a dictionary in the back, and it also has the answer key for the workbook. This could also be for you if you're trying to learn English. This could be helpful for your vocabulary and spelling in English. I have them back there on the library counter, and you can just grab one for yourself or for your child. And then now I have some other storybooks over there too if you guys want to pick those up for your children. And then I'm going to call out the name for the lucky winner of the cookbook.
Someone's going to be making a lot of good recipes. 500. If you win this, you need to make something for us. Bring it back to school.
The next lunch and learn.
Yes.
Maria Perez. There you go.
Woo!
She's the winner.
Congratulations. Yes, thank you. Enjoy that.
Thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you for coming. I challenge you to complete that. Where did I put that one? Get you yours. Complete this unique feedback form. Grab some of the goodies on your way out. And thank you again for coming.